We mentioned the F1 at the very beginning of the episode. What's your thoughts been on like the opening races and then how the season is going to look how things are going to look for the rest of the season? Obviously, we've not had two of the races because of the current conflicts within the world, but yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. I think a lot of the new cars divide opinion quite a lot. I think, look, with a new regulation change, I think there's always going to be hiccups and challenges. I think the concept's fine. Like, I think the racing is better. I think the races are better to watch.
Right.
1 sec. Let me get these dogs out there. Having a fun.
Oh, that's cool. If the dog wants to come on camera, hey, time to shine.
I could pick this one out.
Hello.
Come on. Hey, yeah, it was the regulations. The cars I'm not massively against. I think the races are better to watch.
Right.
Because a lot of the time last year, it was whoever went into the turn one would just stay first, and that was that. It was quite.
Unless it was Lando.
Yeah. So it was quite. They weren't the best races to watch in the previous generation of cars. And I think you start relegation, you're always going to have big gaps, big field spreads, because we had Red Bull in the last set that were miles ahead for ages, and then McLaren finally caught up. And I think we'll gradually get the same. Like we're already seeing McLaren last weekend with Oscar. I think on another day probably could have won that race in Japan before the safety car. So even though Mercedes look on another planet, I think by the end of the year we could potentially have again a few teams able to win a race.
I mean, we've seen McLaren do it in recent history where they could just start off slowly and then during the season, turn it around.
I think now McLaren are interesting that they really back themselves in the way they develop a car. I think they're really confident in their team and their upgrades. Whereas, like if you hear rumors that McLaren are bringing upgrades, that car is getting quicker by a big chunk. If Ferrari say they're bringing upgrades, you're 50-50 whether it's going to make them worse or better. So McLaren have definitely built a strong factory team, and so it wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the year McLaren are at least level with Mercedes, to be honest.
Fair. And do you think we're not even going to really talk about Ferrari too much, because Ferrari, you got to take them every race as it comes. It's like Man United. It's like take it every match day as it comes. Because like you said, if Ferrari say they're bringing in upgrades, you'll be like, okay, cool. We need to see it consist. It could be great for one race, and then the following race it will just be absolute pants. But do you think Kimi Antonelli can win this championship? Obviously, he's leading now, but it's very early in the season. It's only been 3 races. But he's leading his teammates, George Russell.
I think with how long the season is now, we've lost 2 races. I think over the course of a year, I'd still back George. I think consistency wise and experience, but then on the other hand, I think this break's definitely helped George because it stopped Kimi's momentum, 4-week break. But if Kimi comes back in Miami, sticks it on pole and wins the race, I think momentum is in sport and in all sports, I think would play a huge part. And I think George, especially in F1, I think drivers probably question themselves a lot more than in other sports because it's such fine margins, in qualifying and in the race. And I think you look at Lewis, that he'll be flying in one practice session, massively overthink things, change the car, and he's half a second off Charles all of a sudden. So I think it depends, but I would always back George, I think. But I would love Kimi. I'd love to see Kimi do it. But again, he's still second season. There's a lot of mistakes to be made.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's interesting that you said this mini break could end up being, it's going to end up being a month, will probably help George because because Kimi could have continued that momentum if the other two races weren't called off. But even with Miami coming up, after Miami, there's another 3-week break till the Canadian Grand Prix, and then we're going to get those races going in. So it's those ones where Kimi's going to have to stay locked in. But it's going to be hard because he's so young. Again, he's more likely to make mistakes. And these breaks does also somewhat give the other teams an unexpected chance to develop their
Yeah,
cars even further
that's the thing. Yeah,
in season. Like this 4-week break, for instance, no one expected it.
that's the thing. I think these two races that have been postponed or cancelled, that I think the only it benefits every team other than Mercedes, because that was
Yeah.
2 races where they were probably going to get another one too and be further ahead. So
Yeah, no, it's true.
these teams can now catch up more, and there's only been 3 races so far. Yeah, 3 races so
Yeah,
far. So
3 races.
in the grand scheme of 24 races in Canada, it's not a lot really when you see how quickly
Yeah,
it changed last year with Oscar and Lando. So
yeah, no, it's true.
yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to, and that's the thing. I think when it starts to get more competitive, whether, say, if George and Kimi have a bad weekend, they're still finishing on the podium because the car's so quick. Whereas when other teams catch up and they have a bad weekend, similar to what you saw at the end of last year with Oscar, that when he had a bad weekend, it was no longer podium, it was a 5th or a 6th.
Yeah.
Orlando was winning. So I think it'll be interesting then to see if Kimi can maintain that level. Because you'd back George too. Like, George always seems to maximize the car 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Especially when it's close, especially in qualifying. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be an entertaining year. So I'm looking forward to it.
No, it's true. The one thing though, in terms of the consistency, even though it's been early, all 3 races, Kimi's got a podium. George hasn't.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So,
But then George led
probably,
the first 8 sessions, didn't he? All from Q1, Q2, Q3 of Australia, right, and
yeah,
then up until the last Q3 of the second race, China. So
yeah. No, it's true. In terms of the teams, not teams, but obviously in the midfield, for instance, Gasly started the season well.
yeah,
Just in racing in general, do you think he can maintain that, or any of the lower teams can somewhat? It's hard, actually. It's hard to ask that question because the teams that are low have had a few DNFs because these new regs. They're feeling it. For instance, a lot of people are being more patient in terms of the car development and stuff. But do you think there's anyone that could somewhat surprise
I,
as the
th-
season goes along?
I think Alpine. With that Mercedes engine, I think they the more they understand it,
Mm,
and the car looks decent anyway. So I think
yeah.
I think they'll solidify probably being the best of the midfield this year.
Hmm.
Because I think I don't see Red Bull taking huge steps forward.
All right.
Mainly because I think I saw on Twitter or X yesterday or the last couple of days that their engine's actually not far behind Mercedes' engine in terms of power, so they don't get engine upgrades, potentially.
Who's that? Alpine?
Red Bull.
Oh, Red Bull.
So I
Sorry.
think it is genuinely that the car is slow rather than necessarily the engine.
Right.
I think they've got a lot of work to do in terms of aerodynamics and chassis wise, whereas Alpine, I think, probably aren't using that Mercedes engine to its full potential yet because they probably don't understand
Right.
it. And I think the car looks decent. It's not, they're not a million miles behind Ferrari
Mhm.
really in qualifying or race trim. So Alpine will be good. I think Aston Martin need to improve. To be honest, it's an absolute shambles. What's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't got a good engine or a good car. So, but again, it'll be interesting to see how Hadjar does for the rest of the year in comparison to Max. Because in qualifying he's been quite
I
close.
Yeah, no, I hope, and he's been a bit unlucky in, I think, one of the
Races,
races.
yeah.
I hope he does finally show Red Bull that, yo, like, Max is gonna have a real
Yeah.
competitive
If Max has a poor
dri
session, then he will beat him. Not, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
second driver.
so that would be a nice, interesting thing to see.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, Behrman's had a decent start as well. I think the first couple
He has, to be fair.
passes are interesting if Ferrari managed to upgrade the engine a little bit mid-season, see how they get on. I think we'll see a lot of teams sort of up and down, and there won't really be a set order a lot of the time. I think a team will bring upgrades, they'll jump, the team will catch up, and then it will sort of go up and down. They're all sort of battles that they've got going on. So it'll be a good
Yeah.
year, I think.
I think like Miami race won't tell us too much in terms of the teams in general, but I think once a couple races after Miami, we'll start to see teams form into shape,
Yeah.
and then we'll see how they continue to operate with these regs and then the car development through the season.